carries. All right, next up is the approval of the November 15th, 2018 meeting minutes. If you've all had a chance to look at them, please entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Jeff,
Second.
second from Janelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Ms. Mooring, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First in your packet is a copy of the letter from the Regional Transportation Commission. You guys will remember that the Regional Transportation Commission sunsetted and it returned the money from each of the counties. They returned the pro rata share of the money to each of the counties. So we just wanted you to be aware that $16,000 and change was returned to Nassau County. And they, you know, in returning it, they were thinking of transit, but, you know, what becomes of that money is just something that people should be aware that it's there. So that,
Marla, we do have an action item on our agenda for February 25th, the VOCC does to discuss the disposition of those funds.
great,
And there's a recommendation from Council on Aging for the disposition.
that's great, that's good to hear. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was kind of an information item. Next in your packet, there's kind of two things going on here. We're required annually to take a look at the bylaws, and one of the meetings that we didn't have a quorum at was a meeting where we were going to take that overall annual look at the bylaws. In the meantime, the rule has changed, adding a representative from the Agency for Persons with Disabilities to the membership of the LCB board. So those memberships are listed in the bylaws. So these bylaws are exactly the same as they were before, with the one change to add that additional member to the LCB roster. So that would be on page 3 and 4 of the bylaws. It's under Article 3, voting members, and we added an item 17, a local representative of the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. I also included, for your information, the updated rule and an email that I got from the TD Commission that outlines what changed in the rule. So 3 things changed. Insurance requirements is one of the things that changed, so that's really for the CTC to be aware that there has been a change in insurance. I don't know how it affects you, but sort of heads up that there has been a change in the insurance requirement under the TD rule. There's the change in the membership of LCBs, and there's also the addition of what we've been calling the Mobility Enhancement Grant for the last 3 years. The TD Commission has been doing kind of special grants. They now have been added to the rules. So those are the 3 changes to the TD kind of governing rule, and everybody now has a full set of that rule. So that's what's there. This is, and I guess I should sort of follow up by saying I have wrote a letter to Leslie Richards, who's the Northeast Region Manager for the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, asking her to please appoint a representative. I haven't heard back yet, but I'll pursue that.
Do we need a motion to?
Yes, we do need to. We need to approve the bylaws in their annual review with the change to add the additional member to the LCB.
Okay. Is there someone to make that motion?
Make the motion.
Okay. Second by Janelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Okay. Other business that we had not gotten to includes the next item that you see after the letter to Ms. Richards and the schedule for meetings. That was for her information. You'll see the roster. So I'll be referring to the roster, and we have, as kind of a recurring item, LCD membership, because we have to recognize that we have had issues with getting a quorum, and we also have some vacancies. So it's something that we talk about at every meeting. So this is, let's see. We're going to use this sheet because you'll notice that the chair and vice chair, excuse me, the vice chair and the committees Both have 2018 dates. That's because we need to put people in those positions. So right now, Ms. Ogden is the vice chair. And it's an action item for this meeting, if it's the board's will, to name a vice chair and also make committee assignments to the evaluation and the grievance committees. So I don't know if there are, we sometimes have self-nominations.
Would you like to serve again, Ms. Ogden?
Sure.
I appreciate that. And then what committees do we need?
The grievance, there's a grievance committee which meets only as needed. So if there's kind of a complaint process, if a rider has a complaint that is handled kind of locally or through Nassau Transit. So I can tell you that the grievance committee hasn't met in years. Certainly since I've been working with this group, the grievance committee has not met. And that means that complaints are being worked out kind of closer to the ground, like they're worked out more quickly and they don't kind of go up the chain. So the reason I tell you that is it's not a very difficult gig, if you know what I mean. So that's something to be aware of. And then the evaluation committee, we're in a strange year this year because this year there is no requirement for evaluations of the CTC. However, what at least a lot of communities are doing is they're doing kind of a voluntary evaluation. So there's the evaluation form, Mr. Chairman, is a multi-page form provided by the TD Commission that asks a bunch of questions, a lot of which are kind of don't apply to us because we don't coordinate as much as a Miami or a Jacksonville, for example. And so what a lot of communities are doing is there's a ride-along where the members of the committee take a ride on the bus. We do an inspection of that bus, and then we get the manifest from that vehicle and call with a survey asking people about their experience. And it's that last part that's always very useful because you get, kind of, there's a lady in my office who's very good at getting people to, kind of share with her. And then she gets kind of anecdotally, she gets the answers to the set questions, and then she gets additional kind of comments. Sometimes those comments are the kind of thing you could share with the drivers to make them feel better. Because and sometimes they're complaints, but it's probably the most informative. So that the evaluation committee is about a half-a-day commitment, usually in May. And it involves a ride-along, a kind of interview, and then the surveying part is done by me, assuming the group wants to do it. But technically, this year, we do not have to do it at all. So that's kind of at the will of the group. But what we're looking for is members to join that committee, and I will, do the staffing, so you just kind of have to show up.
So how many members do you need for each committee?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. So I guess the first question I have is anyone interested in volunteering for the grievance committee?
Yes, I'll be up for
And I'll remain.
Okay. You're on the grievance committee
Yes, sir.
and the evaluation committee?
Oh, yes, I am.
Is that also a volunteer for that as
Yes.
well? All right, perfect.
Probably not.
Any other volunteers for the grievance committee?
Is Terry Campbell even still with the agency?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're not doing travel at the moment,
Ah.
but he's still around.
Okay.
I will in Nancy Duff's place. She was somewhere, I
Okay.
And that's for Janet, that's grievance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else willing to volunteer for the evaluation committee? I think it's important that we give the Council on Aging feedback on, how great a job they're doing, and it's nice for the drivers to get an attaboy every so often. It's I imagine it can be a hard job, and getting an attaboy. So I think there could be some benefit for the Council on Aging in this too. So I think we should do it. I think it's important, and hate to have Louise have to be the only one to carry the load. Any other volunteers?
Yeah, we had fun last year.
I don't think we're doing such a good job.
No, I did a good job selling it, I guess.
But yeah, that's fine. We've
Yeah.
done it.
Okay.
Just the two of us.
Mhm.
Okay. So do we have a motion to ratify the vice chair election and these committee assignments?
I move that we approve the vice chair and the committee assignments.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next on my report is LCB membership, and this, again, is kind of the recurring item. I included a farewell, I guess, from Tony McAdoo. You guys had asked me to reach out to him and see if he was still interested, because it had been a while since he was able to attend the meeting. And so I wanted to include that, you know, he's still supportive, but he does not any longer want to be a member of the board. So we now have a vacancy in the elderly category, as well as the ones that were on previous versions of the list. So this is once a year, and we're doing a lot of once a year things at this meeting, since we haven't done them at the last couple meetings. Once a year, the board does have to approve the roster, and that's in advance of the roster going to the Regional Council Board of Directors. When it goes to the Regional Council Board of Directors, everybody's terms gets extended by 2 years. So if anyone's changed their mind about being on the LCB, and you can resign anytime that you want, obviously, but just so you know, the Regional Council Board will be extending everyone's terms that's on the list that is approved by this body today, hopefully. So that, again, is an action item. So.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the membership roster?
Motion.
Motion by Ms.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That's
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Jeff, I'm sorry, I can't read the name.
Boomrad.
Boomerang, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and there's two other things I just wanted to bring to your attention. The interest form, this is posted on the website, and I can send you hard copies, or you can make hard copies. When you find someone who's a likely candidate for one of our vacancies, don't let them escape. You can, kind of bring them to my attention and, just sort of set the tone, and I'm happy to follow up with them. Or you can use this form, whatever works. But just wanted to make you aware that we do have an interest form for folks that might be interested, especially writers. If there's someone who's into the service and wants to talk about it, that might be a likely person. The next thing that you have is a rather lengthy PowerPoint that the TD Commission has, that we kind of refer to, affectionately we planners refer to as TD 101. And it is essentially the cheat sheet for all things to do with the TD Commission. So I just, bring it to your attention once a year. If you have questions, you can kind of go there first, and if it doesn't answer your questions, just get with me and I'll get the answers for you. But it is an overview of how all things TD work. And I apologize for making it so small, but it is a very lengthy PowerPoint. With that, sir, just reminding everyone that we have we've advertised the there's a required annual public hearing that we play it by ear. If there are things going on where we need to talk to the public about route changes or whatever, we can do that anytime. But this is the one that is required by the state. And has been advertised in that way, so that will follow this meeting immediately. And that's my report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. All right, next up, we have the Community Transportation Coordinator System update, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I share my remarks, I want to thank you for volunteering or getting volunteered, whichever the case is, for this committee. This is for this board. This is a really important board. And it's important to the county, important to the citizens and all the agencies in the county. Is this on? And that importance is growing. So we need leadership. We need leadership at the county level, and I appreciate your being here and to provide that. And I want to thank Mr. Doug Adkins with Day Spring Village. Dayspring is a huge, I'll call them a customer. You're a customer of ours, and you're a big customer of ours, and we really appreciate the work, the business, so to speak, that you bring us. And it's very important what you do for us, and what you offer us, and what you think, because all that's very important for us, to us, and I'm glad that you're here. And I also want to thank everyone else who's here, because we have a quorum. We have a forum with a quorum. And it's so great to see so many people here. And I want to thank Mr. Scott Now, our new Transportation Resources Manager. He's here, and Scott just got back from Tallahassee, attended a safety training program that's sponsored by DOT. It's a statewide safety training program. He was in there for 2 days. He's brought back a wealth of knowledge. And he was telling me about this when I had to stop. I said, Scott, please slow down. I got to get ready for this meeting this afternoon. So he's all excited about that, and I can't wait to hear what he's learned. And Miss Erica James is with us. Erica is something of a, well, she's a customer service agent. I guess we're all customer service agents. But she is, her official title is customer service and dispatch. Really, she's also taking more office administrator type work and doing a great job with that. And I really appreciate your willingness to just jump right in. Erica's only been with us since September. So yeah, and she's learned a lot and really contributed a lot. So thank you for all that. In your handouts, you should have one that's in color. It's got a bunch of numbers on it. And it is called the operating report. These figures represent both fourth quarter of last year versus fourth quarter of 2017, and also a year-to-date compendium of figures and metrics. The upshot is that, among other things, there's a lot fewer red figures on this report than there have been maybe in the last year and a half. Red figures are not good for us. They represent declines in the amount of business and the routes that we've, services that we provide. So I'm hoping, and I've said this before though, I'm hoping that our transportation disadvantaged business has stabilized. They've been declining for quite a while, probably 2 or 3 years. In total, the number of rides and trips that we provide for folks who qualify for our transportation disadvantaged service, that seems to have bottomed out. I hope so. We've done. We have our new marketing manager is Liz Dunn, has made some efforts to really promote the program, the transportation disadvantage, what most folks think of as paratransit, which I guess they're kind of synonymous. So I'm hoping that that decline has bottomed out, because really the paratransit service for folks who are transportation disadvantaged, that's our core mission. I mean, public transit, go to the bus stop and go to Jacksonville, those things are great. People need those services. We're happy to provide them. That's kind of more sexy than paratransit, but the core of what's in our hearts is paratransit. Folks who need the service are not using it because it's available, and they just rather burn taxpayers' gasoline than their own. So again, it looks like maybe we'll see. It looks like maybe that our transportation disadvantage service reach has bottomed out, and in fact, in the fourth quarter, if you look at line number 1, fourth quarter of last year, we provided a whole 819 more TV rides than we did in the last quarter of 2017. That doesn't sound like many, but on the scale of 5,600 from last year, it's an increase of 15%. So it's substantial. Seniors programs and services, we had a decline in the fourth quarter of 18 versus 17, a slight decline. These are trips or folks who go to the Council on Aging centers in Fernandina and in Hilliard combined. Slight decline there. Medicaid, we'll talk about Medicaid for a moment. We like Medicaid. Yeah, we like the Medicaid service. One of the reasons we like to do Medicaid service is that the revenue that we're able to charge for Medicaid service is more than what it costs us to provide it. So there's a margin there. And I know we're a nonprofit, Ms. D'Amato, we realize that. We don't make money, but
It's match.
yeah, that's right, it's a match, so yeah, we need match. So Medicaid, our service for Medicaid has grown, and the reason is we've gone to a different broker. Our broker now is called National MedTrans, or in line 4, NMT, where that's Medicaid, and there in the center, Medicaid NMT, that's National MedTrans. They're the broker that we've signed on with, and they're so much easier to get along with than the broker that we were using. And so much so that we've kind of stopped using that other broker altogether. It became almost more trouble than it worked. So we do plan to continue doing business with them. But the good news is that we're doing business with a really good broker and getting a lot more rides out of them. And again, Mr. Adkins, most of those rides, most of them being 85%, I would think off the top of my head probably, are coming out of Dayspring Village and Dayspring Senior Living. So thank you very much for that. Total paratransit trips then in the fourth quarter were 10,324, an 8% increase over the same period last year. That's a good thing. And total paratransit trips per day then we're averaging about 10 more than last year. You can read this as well as I can, but I'll just hit the highlights. Those measures that I just mentioned are measures of effectiveness rather, the scope and scale of what we're doing, the services we're providing. And lines 8 and 9 are more efficiency metrics. They measure or depict how well we're doing or how efficiently we're doing, the scope and scale of our services. And on line 9, a slight increase in the number of trips per hour worked. The good thing about paratransit is that it doesn't cost a lot more to do one more trip because the wheels are already turning. The operator's been hired, he's out there, and the cost of picking up the next passenger is it's just gasoline because the bus operator is being paid anyway to go to the one that, the next one down the line. So, and really, if you think about it, it's at the margins that make the difference. It's the next ride that you get paid for, full fare, full price, I don't know what else to call it, for that ride. It doesn't cost anything near, it's so much more than what it costs us to provide. The next section there, lines 10 through 13, are relate to public transit trips. Public transit is where you go to the bus stop, and we take you where we go. Then you get off the next bus stop, or you just want to ride around, you can do that. We do deviate up to a half a mile upon passenger request along the route. And our public transit trips have seen a pretty marked increase over quarter to quarter for last year versus 17. About 5.2%. Island Hopper's doing pretty well. The YMCA is a service we provide for elementary kids who have escorts on the bus from the YMCA. We take them from after-school program on our transit route to the YMCA and put them in. So total public transit trips per day, an increase of about 2, not much. However, it does contribute to the overall total trips increase of 946 quarter to quarter, year to year, or an increase of about 7.2%. And we did that increase with a total vehicle mileage increase of 473 miles, which is only about 2.7% more. So in other words, we delivered 7.2% more trips on 2.7% more miles, as I was alluded to earlier. It doesn't take that much more to do a lot more. I guess that's really all I wanted to expound upon with the operating report, unless anyone has any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any questions for Mr. Hayes on this? Kind of excited to see the increase in the commuter portion of it for the public transportation. That's kind of a nice thing to see that we're starting to get some traction there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the sexy part of what we do. The Nassau, I'll talk about this more in a moment, but the Nassau Express Select service that we are in a partnership that we're providing through JTA, that started in December. Those figures, we provided 68 rides on the Nassau Express Select in December. Those 68 rides are not depicted here. So put those in somewhere. It's a start. But it's an exciting start. And when we get to meet an hour later, I do have some additional remarks that I'd like to share
Okay.
beyond this report.
Okay. And then I guess next up is the annual operations report.
Yes. You should have the original. This is the original. Okay. The annual operations report is a report that we provide for the Commission for Transportation District. And the fiscal year of the report is July 1st through June 30th. And so the figures that you see in the report, you should have a copy of it with you. These figures, the reason they don't jive with what I just went through is because these figures are for year ending June 30th versus the ones that we just looked at December 31st. You're welcome to look through this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about it. Or not. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, I think the chair's required to sign this, correct?
Yes, and it's
Marty?
matched on it.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hayes on the annual operations report? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And, grants update.
Grants update, yes. Thanks to the great support we received from the Florida Department of Transportation, we have, as I understand, there is our overall grant, we'll call it the 5311 grant. Not that means anything, but the 5311 grant is sort of like an umbrella grant that covers all the calls, or half of the calls that we incur that are not covered by other grants, so to speak. And this year, I think Janelle, if I recall, may have the number a little bit wrong, but I think it's like $426,000 in the next cycle.
But, yeah, but I think, so you're talking about what you're gonna be getting a grant for soon? Because
Yes.
this is for what you just applied for. We gotta approve what
The
you
one,
just.
the one that we just applied for.
Right.
Yeah,
We don't know what that is yet.
yeah.
Yeah. But,
Okay.
yeah, so they're approving the applications you submitted in December is what this was.
Okay. We did not request any new buses this year. The reason is, we received 3 buses already in the last year, and we're getting two more coming, 2 more in the pipeline. That's 5. And with those 5, we'll have 25 vehicles on the road, which is more than we have ever had, ever, with paratransit trips down. So I just couldn't frankly justify asking the taxpayers for more buses. If I were a taxpayer, which I am, I would say, what are you talking about? You just got 5, and you've received 8 or 9 in the last 4 or 5 years. So really, if you look at our vehicle, this should be in your package, ladies and gentlemen, should be a package or a sheet called vehicle inventory. This is simply a list of all the vehicles we have and information about them. There's 23 vehicles here. It doesn't count the 2 that are on the way. This is as of December 31st. All these vehicles, except the first one's for sale, it's sitting in mothballs. The next 3 have 265, 201, and 287,000 miles on them. There was a time, and it hasn't been that long ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when probably half our fleet had over 200,000 miles on it. So it was really hard for me to justify asking for any more vehicles at this time. I think we're really in really good shape in terms of the vehicle resources that we have. So we didn't ask for any more.
You only applied for 5311, so the only thing has to be approved. Right,
That's all we applied for, yes.
which is operational funding.
So we need a motion then to approve the grant request, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the grant request for operational funding?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Razor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ogden. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Hayes, did you want to talk about the Express Select now, or did you want to wait?
I can.
Okay, totally up to you.
Okay, great. Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nassau Express Select, you should have a brochure. That started in on December 3rd. We had a soft rollout and ceremony on December 5th. This is a partnership with JTA. And I have a sense that there's been a bit of a misunderstanding or misimpression in the community. You know, Nassau County is a very tight community. And I had the impression, and I may be wrong, that the community thinks that JTA is taking over Nassau County. Here they come, and this is the end, the beginning of the end. You know, and I could see how they might think that. But two things about it. First of all, they're not doing anything, nothing is being done that we weren't doing for the 4.5 years before this started. We've been providing these very routes ourselves, Nassau Transit, in the morning and in the afternoon, did the exact same thing, all on our own for 4.5 years. All we did was outsource it to ALF using JTA, because they're a lot better at dealing with third parties than we are. They have a lot more resources than we do. So we enlisted them. This was our idea, Nassau Transit. This was our idea. This was our proposal. We went to them about this. We invited them into this partnership. They're not coming up here taking over anything. The reason that they're engaged is like the bus stop, the shelter across the street here in the Winn-Dixie parking lot. They had that up in a week. It would have taken me a year to, I don't know anything about bus stop shelters or how to, I guess I figured out how to get a pad pour and all, but really, I'm talking about, they knocked it out. And they did everything else about it. They did this brochure, right? It would take us a month if they just, a couple of days, this was done. So the reason that we're engaged with JTA on this is because they're just better at it, doing the stuff than we are. It's a 50-50 partnership. And the grant is through us, not through JTA. The grant is through us. And I'd just like to dispel that notion, Mr. Chairman, that JTA is coming up here. I see it, I don't do Facebook, but I hear things, Now, I saw this somebody told me about it anyway, this Facebook post, and here it is, this is the end, it's the beginning of the end. And I didn't know we had a bus system in Nassau County. I was going like, really? Yeah, we have a bus system and have for a long time. So I would ask the board to spread the rumor that we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And it's a good thing. This is a really good service. It's good for Nassau County. I want to talk about Medicaid again for just a moment, because Mr. Adkins has a very important presentation, although it's primarily centered on non-sponsored, not Medicaid, as I understand it. But Medicaid is a very important service. You talk about the most disadvantaged people in the county. They're more disadvantaged than the transportation disadvantaged. And it's really important for us to service these Medicaid folks. And I appreciate the business that we get from Medicaid through Mr. Adkins, but I'd like to do more Medicaid. So if y'all can, again, spread the rumor around town. The Nassau Transit we are safe, we're professional, we're highly credentialed, and we're available. We have space, we have the room to provide more Medicaid service, and we would like to. So if you know anybody on Medicaid, or if you're with an agency that has clients, or you're engaged with transportation for clients who are on Medicaid, encourage them. Reach out to them. Reach out to their HMOs to look to Nassau Transit, look to National MedTrans for their transportation needs. Recently, we started installing GPS trackers in all, if not all, almost all of our vehicles. It's a little gizmo that you stick into the engine diagnostic port underneath the dash. You stick it in there, and it tracks the location of the vehicle, how fast it's going. If there's a hard braking action, it knows about that. If there's hard acceleration, it knows about that. If it breaks the speed limit in a 35, it knows about that. 65, knows about that. It knows the difference. It knows what the posted speed limits are. And we're putting them in all of our vehicles. So I'm getting, for the first 2 or 3 days, I bet I got 15 emails for speeding alerts. Yes. But that has really slowed down because people are, our drivers, they don't mean to. They go with this. Well, I'm just going with the traffic. So if the traffic's going 10 miles over the speed, I should go 10 miles just to keep up. So, no, it doesn't work like that. So we put these trackers in. Something's come up that I need to let the board know about, and Mr. Chairman, it's the thing that the commissioners are going to hear about on Monday night. Verizon is our cell carrier, and among other things we do with Verizon is almost all of our vehicles have a mobile data terminal in them, and it's a terminal that they use that works with our scheduling system. And when the driver arrives at the pickup, they push the button, push a little thing on the screen, and it says, "I'm here." And that information is transmitted to the office and captured by our schedulers. When they leave, they're supposed to push the button that says, "I'm gone, I'm out of here," and that gets transmitted. And throughout the day, they tell us where they went, or all the stops that they made, and tell you if it's a no-show, push it says no-show. All this is supposed to be captured by, and is captured by our mobile data terminal. And all that's great. We've been doing this for 3 years. The problem is that Verizon, over which the cell phone network that this thing works, is moving from a 3G. It's not supporting 3G anymore. With this gizmo thing that the MDT is a 3G MDT. They're not going to support 3G anymore. They're going to move to 4G. So the MDT is going to become a paperweight real soon. So we have to get either get a new MDT or a new. This is called Ranger. That's just the brand name. A new Ranger from Trapeze, or get something else that looks like a Ranger, acts like a Ranger, but what's not a Ranger. It could be like a tablet, which does the same thing. So we got the thing about it that makes it complicated is the tablets are not nearly as expensive as the Rangers. A Ranger's like $4,000. A tablet's like $200 at Walmart. But if you get the tablet, the way I understand it is, if you get the tablet, the Trapeze says, "Okay, you got these tablets. Well, our system doesn't, our software doesn't support that. You're going to need a new software license to run." So we're going to get you either on the Ranger or the software. So we're in a bit of a pickle. We're trying to figure out how much this is going to cost us, what the options are, and how much they're going to cost. The Regional Transportation Commission was sunset in November, and there was about $12,000 that was reverted out of that to Nassau County. And what we're going to ask the Board of County Commissioners on Monday night to do is to allow us to use that money to purchase either software or MDTs, whichever way it turns out, to use those funds for the technology that we're going to need. It's an existential need. We'll be Trapeze is without an MDT. Trapeze is just. There's no point in having Trapeze without an MDT. As I said, or I may have said, we ordered 2 buses. One is for sale. We're kicking around the idea, now that we've had the Nassau Express Select has been in place for about a month and a half, we're kicking around the idea of adding, or changing up and adding new bus stops. This is something that the community has asked for a long time. The Nassau County Transit Study, among other recommendations, asked for bus stops at the courthouse complex and at FSCJ. That's just 2 of our many requests. Yesterday, I was talking with Judge Foster, and he reiterated that they would love, he and Mr. Crawford would love to have a bus stop at the courthouse complex. They will even, he's even looking into how much it would cost to put a bench out there, and maybe even a shelter. How much would that cost? So, talking with the courthouse about what that would look like. We have to change our system, our schedule a little bit, but change to accommodate. And then there's FSCJ. I've spoken with Ms. Martin, Donna Martin, who's superintendent of the schools. She would love that. She was at FSCJ. She would love to have a bus stop there. Has asked for one for years. That's like a quarter of a mile away from the courthouse. We have to drive right past it. So that would work out really well. So one of the big advantages of the Nassau Express Select is that it freed up some time for us in our schedule, not driving up and down 95. So we have now some time, some flexibility built into our schedule to provide more service and to be more Nassau County, Nassau-centric in our service. So those are a couple things that we're thinking about right now. New bus stops and additional routes for our public transit. And finally, I'd like to invite everyone to the new Life Center, Nassau County Council on Aging Life Center, Fernandina Beach. They've moved into a new facility. It's behind Zaxby's. If you haven't been there, you should go. It's really pretty. It's awesome. It's just really awesome. I don't know how many square feet it is, but it's a lot of space there. We have so many programs going on there, and the place is just buzzing with activity. It's not just for seniors. It's all programs for all kinds of folks. They have everything from hot yoga, from yoga to yoga to because it gets hot in that room. It's hot. And so I guess everybody's hot yoga and belly dancing. And if you're into that kind of thing, bridge, all kinds of stuff going on at the council. Please visit. I encourage you to do that. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank Mr. Van Dyke Walker in the back there for being here. Van Dyke was very, very helpful to Nassau Transit in the discussions with the Nassau Express Select and working with JTA. Thank you very much for that and your support for the service. Thank you.